राम 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 सर्वेभ्यः हृत्पूर्वकनमस्काराः। प्रवेशकक्ष्यायां सर्वेषां स्वागतम्। प्रथमतः गुरुवन्दनम् उक्त्वा पाठस्य प्रारम्भं कुर्मः। अद्यतनपाठः चतुर्थः पाठः। गतकक्ष्यायाम् अपि चतुर्थः पाठः पठितः अस्माभिः। अद्यापि चतुर्थं पाठं पठिष्यामः। सर्वे कृपया उच्चैः गुरुवन्दनं मङ्गलश्लोकद्वयं च वदन्तु। गुरुरेव गतिर्गुरुमेव भजे, गुरुणैव सहास्मि नमो गुरवे। न गुरोः परमं शिशुरस्मि गुरोः, मतिरस्ति गुरौ मम पाहि गुरो। ब्रवीमि संस्कृतं वाचा, ध्यायामि संस्कृतं हृदा। कुर्वे सेवाञ्च कायेन, वन्दे संस्कृतमातरम्। यो नरः संस्कृतव्योम्निह्यालयं रमते मुदा, संस्कृतिं चैव संस्कारं विन्दते नात्र संशयः। गतकक्ष्यायां शिवश्लोकद्वयम् अस्माभिः पठितं खलु। अत्र श्लोकम् अस्ति। लक्ष्मी भगिनी कृपया वदतु। लक्ष्मी भगिनी, you are unmuted. Please recite the shloka on the screen. Haraf papani haratat. I can't hear Lakshmi Bhagini. Priya Bhagini.
नमस्ते भगिनी।
नमस्ते।
हरः पापानि हरतात्, शिवो दत्तां सदा शिवं। न जानामीति नो ब्रूयात्, सर्वज्ञपदभाग्यतः।
उत्तमं भगिनी, धन्यवादाः। पुनरावर्तनमेव एतत्। गतकक्ष्यायाम् अस्माभिः श्लोकः एषः पठितः। हरः पापानि हरतात्, शिवो दत्तां सदा शिवं। न जानामीति नो ब्रूयात्, सर्वज्ञपदभाग्यतः। अस्य अर्थं पश्यामः। आङ्ग्लभाषायाम् अर्थम् अस्ति अत्र। सर्वे पठन्तु, सर्वे जानन्त्येव। ह्यः पुनरावर्तनमपि अभवत् खलु अभ्यासकक्ष्यायां, सुधा भगिन्याः कक्ष्यायाम्। इदानीम् अन्यः श्लोकः ईश्वरस्य विषये एव। श्रीलता जी, प्लीज रीड दिस। कृपया श्लोकं पठतु।
नमस्कारम्।
नमस्ते।
आसन्नाय सुदूराय, गुप्ताय प्रकटात्मने, सुलभायाति दुर्गाय, नमश्चित्राय शम्भवे।
उत्तमं श्रीलता भगिनी, धन्यवादाः। अस्य अर्थमपि वयं सर्वे पठितवन्तः पठितवत्यः च गतकक्ष्यायां। सर्वे अत्र पश्यन्तु, आङ्ग्लभाषायाम् अर्थम् अस्ति। इदानीं संस्कृतवाङ्मय परिचयः। So this is the new lesson for today's class. Whatever we learned so far, the shlokas, we just did it as a recap. So as you know, in every class, we are being introduced to a work in Sanskrit or any part of Sanskrit literature. Like I said, we have a huge treasure trove of literature in Sanskrit, and we were introduced to the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Darshanas, and the different parts of Vedas, the Vedangas, etc. Now we are coming to Srimad Ramayanam, a very, very beautiful part of Sanskrit literature and one of my very favorite topics also. So this, from a purely examination point of view, you know that it is given in English or in whichever language you have chosen the textbook. They are available in different languages, English, Kannada, Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, etc. The translations in the Pravesha book. So that would be in that language, in whichever you have chosen. But we will learn a little bit more about Ramayanam as an introduction, and then we will move to the next part of today's class. So Srimad Ramayanam and Mahabharatam form a part of what we call Itihasaha. Maybe I will show you that table once after we are done with a few lessons of the entire gamut of the ancient Indian literature which we have. So Srimad Ramayanam and Mahabharatam, what are known as epics in English. And as we study more, we will realize that many of the words are actually non-translatables. So Itihasa does not exactly translate to an epic in English, but that is how they are popularly called, the two great epics which Bharatam or India gave to the world. But in Sanskrit literature, these are classified as Itihasa. Itihasa, the word itself means, iti means like this. So something, the works which tell us it happened like this. So something which has a basis in history, which has a basis in historical events which happened, that part of literature is called Itihasa. Therefore, Srimad Ramayanam and Mahabharatam, as they are based on events which took place, they form a part of Itihasa. And of course, the prowess of the poet who wrote, the author, etc. is also seen while describing the events which took place. So very interesting part of Srimad Ramayanam. It is called Sitayash Charitam Mahat. That is the great Charitam or the great tale of Sita, because she is the central character of Srimad Ramayanam. And you see another observation which my guru, Vidushi Anantalakshmi Natarajan Mahodaya says, every time there is a turn, the twist in the story or a new story or a new event happens, something unexpected happens, or like I said, there is a twist in the story, in the tale of Srimad Ramayanam, it is because of a female character, whether it is Kaikeyi or Sita or Shurpanakha. So there are a lot of importance is given to female characters. And like I said, it is called Sitayash Charitam Mahat, the great tale of Sita. Now, why is it called Adikavyam? So we have Ramayanam being referred to as Adikavyam, the first Kavyam, and Valmiki as Adikavihi, the first poet. Why so? There is a beautiful tale or a beautiful episode associated with this. That is when Valmiki, in his previous, when he was not a sage, he was called Ratnakara, not Valmiki. Then by virtue of his immense penance, chanting, repeating the name of Lord Rama, then his penance was so intense that a Valmika or an anthill formed around him when he was performing penance, and he did not even realize that an anthill had formed around him. That is why he got Valmika, means anthill in Sanskrit. So he got the name Valmiki. So once Valmiki, initially what happens is he meets sage Narada in his ashram. In Valmiki's ashram, he meets sage Narada. And he asks sage Narada, is there any person who is an embodiment of all great qualities? So the shloka goes, Das tapasvadhyaya niratam tapasvi vagvidamvaram Naradam paripapracha Valmikir Munipungavam. Munipungavam, the greatest among rishis, Narada, So Valmiki asks him, who asks Narada. So Paripapracha, he asks. What does he ask Narada? Konvasmin sampratam loke gunavan kascha viryavan dharmagnyascha kritagnyascha satyavakyo dridhavrataha charitrena chako yuktaha sarvabhuteshu kohitaha vidvan kakkas samarthascha kaschaika priyadarshanaha atmavan ko jitakrodhaha dyutiman kona suyakaha kasya bibhyati devascha jataroshasya sanyuge maharshe tvam samarthosi jnatumevam vidham naram. So he asks Narada, O Maharshi, O greatest among rishis, among sages, who is this person in this entire world who is an embodiment of all these great qualities? So he lists 16 great qualities. So in the first sarga of Ramayana, you come across all these qualities being listed. Whatever I said is a part of Srimad Ramayana only. So the 16 great qualities sage Valmiki asks Narada are Konvasmin sampratan loke, in this entire world. Gunavan, who has very good qualities. Viryavan, who is very brave. Gunavan kashcha viryavan. Dharmagnaha, who is very well versed in dharma. Dharmagnyascha kritagnyascha. Kritagnya, who is very grateful, who has that quality of gratitude. Satyavak, who always speaks the truth, who is only committed to speaking the truth. Dharmagnyascha kritagnyascha satyavakyo dridhavrataha, who is very steadfast, determined. Charitrena chako yuktaha, who has excellent conduct throughout. Sarvabhuteshu kohitaha, who is very hita means who always wishes for good, for the welfare of all beings, or who is interested or who promotes the welfare of all beings, who is compassionate towards all beings. Sarvabhuteshu kohitaha. Sarvabhuteshu. See, it's not only towards humans, towards all beings. And we come across this various instances where Rama shows his compassion towards different creatures, birds, animals in the Ramayana, right? Sarvabhuteshu kohitaha. Vidvan, who is very learned. Samarthaha kaha. Vidvan kaha. Samarthaha kaha, who is very competent. With Konvasmin sampratal loke gunavan kascha viryavan dharmagnyascha kritagnyascha satyavakyo dridhavrataha charitrena chako yuktaha sarvabhuteshu kohitaha vidvan kakkas samarthascha kaschaika priyadarshanaha. Eka priyadarshana, who is very pleasing to look at and who has a very beautiful or a very handsome form. Kaschaika priyadarshanaha. Atmavan, who is very steadfast. Kaha jitakrodhaha, who has conquered his anger. It is very difficult to conquer anger. Jitakrodhaha. Dyutiman, who is brilliant. Ko anasuyakaha, who does not have jealousy. Kasya bibhyati devascha jataroshasya sanyuge. Though he has controlled his anger, when he is angry, kasya bibhyati devascha jataroshasya sanyuge. In a war, when he is angry, even the devas are terrified of his valor, of his courage, of his bravery. So he can terrify the devas also. So who is such a person who has all these 16 qualities? Maharshe, tvam samarthosi jnatumevam vidham naram. You please tell me, is there anyone who's like this? Then Narada, he narrates the Sankshepa Ramayanam and tells him, yes, there is such a person on this earth with all these great qualities, and that is Sri Rama. So if you see it in Srimad Ramayanam, Rama exemplifies, or Rama is an embodiment of the qualities which a human being is supposed to have. He is not showing his superhuman powers or qualities of God. These are all the qualities which one as a human ought to have, the desirable qualities. So these are the 16 qualities Narada narrates, and then he says, yes, there is such a person. And that is Rama, and then he narrates the Sankshepa Ramayanam. Then what happens is when Valmiki, he goes to the banks of a river along with his disciples. And then he describes how beautiful the river is, and like the mind of very clear, like the mind of the noble people. And then he says, he sees Krauncha Mithuna, that is a pair of birds sitting on a tree. And then a hunter, Valmiki is proceeding towards the river along with his disciples, and he sees the scene of a pair of birds sitting on a tree, and a hunter shoots an arrow at one of the birds, killing the male bird. So this is what Valmiki sees. And he's very angered by this, that the hunter could kill the male bird, which was just sitting on a tree and not doing anything. And then it was harmless to the hunter, so to say. So Valmiki is angered by this. And then immediately a verse comes out of his mouth. So a shloka comes out. So he says, Manishada pratishtham tvam agamaha shashvati samaha yat krauncha mithunadekam avadhihi kama mohitam. O Nishada, O hunter, tvam pratishtham ma agamaha. You will not gain prosperity, or you shall not prosper. Why? Krauncha mithunat, in the pair of birds, you killed the kama mohitam avadhihi. In the pair of birds filled with love, you killed the bird. So therefore, O hunter, you shall not attain prosperity. So this is a curse, or rather shoka of Valmiki, that is his sorrow, which came out in the form of a shloka. So shokaha shlokatvam agataha. That sorrow of Valmiki, without his knowledge, just came out of his mouth in the form of a shloka. And this is considered to be the first shloka. So Ramayanam is when the first shloka came out. The first shlokas we have in the form of Ramayanam. And most of them are in what we call Anushtup Chandas, or the a meter where there are 8 letters or 8 syllables in each pada, in each quarter. But you have other verses also which have more, like 11 syllables or 11 letters in each pada. Those also we have, but predominantly we have this Anushtup Chandas in Ramayanam. This shloka is also in Anushtup Chandas, the meter. So the shoka came out in the form of a shloka. And then Valmiki goes back, and he's in a remorse. He's in a very sad, he's feeling bad. He's in a sad state. And then he thinks of what happened and how this shloka, his shoka, his sorrow, came out in the form of a verse, a shloka. That is when Brahma visits him, and he blesses him with the divine inspiration, the divine meditative state, where Valmiki is able to visualize the entire Ramayanam before his eyes. So he sees what is happening, and then he composes Ramayanam. So that power is given, or that blessing by Brahma blesses Valmiki to visualize each of the events which happened as if they are happening before his eyes, and then he composes Ramayanam. So another very beautiful aspect is this shloka, which just explained to you. It also has the reference to the entire katha of Ramayanam. How is that so? Ma Nishada, the first 2 words of the shloka, let us take. I told you Nishada means hunter. Nishada, tvam pratishtham ma agamaha. So if you split the shloka this way, it means what I already told you, O hunter, you will not attain prosperity. Ma means will not or do not. However, instead of taking the words ma and nishada separately, if you combine them and take it as ma nishada as one word, then it means ma refers to goddess Lakshmi. Nishada means the one who resides. So the one who resides in goddess Lakshmi, ma nishada, refers to Vishnu. So see the beauty of the language and the beauty of the words. This you can understand only in Sanskrit, not if you read any translation. Manishada, oh, the one who resides in Lakshmi, that is O Vishnu. Tvam pratishtham agamaha. So there ma is gone. You do not attain prosperity, that ma is gone there. It comes to Manishada, O Vishnu, or the one who resides in Lakshmi. Tvam pratishtham agamaha. You attained prosperity, or like Jayakara, victory to you. Tvam pratishtham agamaha. Why? Because Krauncha Mithunat, you killed Kama Mohitam Avadhihi. So you killed the bird which was filled with kama or lust. There, kama with reference to love in the two birds, in the male bird was killed. Here in this meaning, kama mohitam, moha is ajnana. So in the bird filled with lust, you killed. So that refers to Ravana. So Ravana was full of lust and he was blinded by that lust so much that he did not realize or could not differentiate between what is right and what is wrong. So that was the level of lust in him. So, O Vishnu, you gained prosperity by killing the bird filled with kama, or the bird which was blinded by kama or lust, that refers to Ravana. So this is how the first shloka, which came from the mouth of Valmiki with the blessings of Bhagavan, though it refers to that episode where that male bird was killed, it was in fact the starting point of this great Kavyam Srimad Ramayanam. So that entire verse was a reference to whatever happened in Srimad Ramayanam also. After this episode, when Brahma blesses him with the divine vision to visualize the events, then Valmiki starts composing Srimad Ramayana, which is the first Kavyam, which is why it is called Adi Kavyam. And because he is the author, Valmiki is called Adi Kavihi. It is a very beautiful work, and we must be able to understand the work, study Sanskritam to such an extent that we can understand the verses from Srimad Ramayanam on their own. The beauty of this work is it is in simple Sanskrit. So it is not in very complicated Sanskrit. With basic, thorough understanding of simple Sanskritam, we will be able to understand this work. Of course, there will be multiple levels of meanings and vyakaranam and references to Upanishads, etc., which with more study we will understand. But like I said, the beauty is it is composed in such lucid Sanskrit and wonderfully composed in 24,000 verses, divided into 7 chapters or 7 kandani. Now, this kanda word can be both pullinga and napumsakalinga, so it can be kandaha or kandani, both are correct. So 7 parts, I would say, kanda. Each part is called a kanda. 7 parts. In each kanda, we have again sargas or chapters. For example, Balakandaha is the first one, where we Balakandaha or Balakandam, like I said, both are correct. Balakandam, we have the childhood of Rama, etc., and beautiful lessons being imparted to him, which form the basis of his personality to be able to face all the hurdles and all the difficulties he faces in his life later. And Ayodhya Kandam, then we have Aranya Kandam, then Kishkindha Kandam. So Ayodhya is after Bala, and all the events which happen after his vivaha to Sita, and before they go to the forest. Then Aranya Kandam is when they move to the forest because of the boon granted by Dasharatha to Kaikeyi, and she says Rama should go to the forest and my son Bharata should be coronated. So you all will be aware of that story. So when that is Aranya Kandam. Kishkindha Kandam describes the events of Rama Lakshmana meeting Sugriva, and then killing of Vali, and their friendship. And then Sugriva also promises to help Rama, and the Vanaras set out in search of Sita. Then Sundara Kandam, a very beautiful Kandam. This is where it starts with Hanuman and the other Vanaras who went in the southern direction, who are in the Samudra Tira, on the banks of or on the beach near the ocean. And then he jumps from there, he leaps across to Lanka to find Sita. And this is the crowning glory, we can say, of Ramayanam. Every Kanda is like that, but Sundar Kandam especially, it is, a lot of importance is given to this. Just very much in brief, I wish to share with you. So here, when you read these verses, which is why I urge you all to study Sanskritam, to read them in their original, you will realize that in any work, including Srimad Ramayanam, it is not just a description of events, which we get when we read, say, a translation or a story in English or in any other language. It is not just saying Hanuman crossed the ocean and he gave the ring to Sita and Sita gave him the chudamani and he burnt Lanka and he came back. No, that is just a narration of events. Valmiki, his analysis of every aspect, and in Ramayanam you will realize how he has described the various features, the geographical features of Bharatam. So that shows how well versed he was in how he knew everything about the geographical features, about the environment, and about human psychology. Especially in Sundarakandam, Hanuman is faced with a very tough task. He did not have Google Maps or any map guiding him on where to go. And he was faced with this very tough task of leaping across the ocean, finding Sita in an enemy territory, where Ravana, who is also a very brave king, ruled. And so at each point, and he's going by himself, he's not going with the army. At each point, what is his mental state? When he doesn't find Sita, searching everywhere in the Antapura, and he sees Ravana, and he sees everywhere he has searched, apart from Ashokavanika. And then he doesn't find Sita till then. What is his mental state? How does he feel? Does he give up? How does he regain his confidence? And he surrenders to Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita, surrenders to the supreme will, and he regains his confidence and he says, I will search again. I will not give up. So when they say read Sundarakanda when you're facing a difficulty in your life, it is not just, to read the story. It is a guide. That is why these we have to read Ramayana, Mahabharatam and teach them to our children, not just as a story, but because it's a guide to face life. And Sundarakandam especially, so Hanuman feels like giving up at one point and then he doesn't, and he searches again, and then he sees Ashokavanika. Sita, who has been there and who has been in captivity, and she's being troubled by the Rakshasis around her and by the words, tormenting words of Ravana. She feels like giving up also. That is when Hanuman, he reaches and then he starts narrating the story, and he thinks about his story of Dasharatha and Rama from the tree. Then Sita suddenly hears some good words. All these days she's been hearing very harsh, tormenting words from the Rakshasis and Ravana. So then, even then, Hanuman thinks for a minute, how do I present myself to Sita? She's so scared and she will mistake me also to be an Asura, and she's already at the verge of giving up. How should I present myself? What should I say? What should I talk? So Marutehe Vak Kaushalam, or the expertise of speech of Hanuman, is a very important aspect of Srimad Ramayanam. Even when Hanuman first goes to meet Rama and Lakshmana in the forest as a messenger of Sugriva, the way he presents himself to Rama is so impressed that he tells Lakshmana, a person who is not well versed in Vyakaranam or not well versed in all the Shastras will not be able to speak like this. So including his body language, his style, the substance of what he says. So these are some of the lessons on expertise in speech, oratory skills. All these things are described by Valmiki in Srimad Ramayanam. So even in the Sundarakanda, he thinks about what he has to say. And when he is in the court of Ravana, the way he addresses Ravana, he has committed such a sinful act. Even then, the way he addresses Ravana with respect, he addresses him as Rajan, and then he tells him, he gives him good counsel. Please return Sita. Ramaha Sharanagata Vatsalaha. Anyone who surrenders Rama will forgive you. If you don't, then you will face your end, and so will all your people. So in your own good, I am advising you this. So the way he advises Ravana, all these things we will be able to appreciate when we read the original work. So this is little bit about Sundarakandam. Then Yuddha Kandam, also one more thing before we move on. When Hanuman returns from Lanka, all the Vanaras are very eager to know whether Hanuman has seen Sita or not seen Sita. So his choice of words. So he's just descending from, he's leaping across the ocean and he's descending, and when he lands, so all of them are so eager to know. And the first word he says is Drishta. So he doesn't say Sita, because when you say Sita, it can be Sita Drishta or Adrishta. She has not been seen by me, or it can be Sita has been seen by me. Either ways he can say. But he says Drishta, which means the first word he utters as soon as he returns to the place where the Vanaras are. He says Drishta, meaning has been seen by me. So it is absolutely clear. There is no other, doubt there in their minds, where Jambavan, Angada, and all of them are waiting along with the other Vanaras. So he says, Drishta Siteti Sankshepena Nyavedayat. That is what Valmiki says. Drishta Sita iti. Hanuman says, Drishta Sita Sankshepena, concisely, Nyavedayat. Sankshepena, in just 2 words, he told them whatever had happened in Lanka. That is the primary objective, right? To find Sita. So as soon as he lands, he says, Drishta Sita. So how should your speech be at every occasion? You can't keep on saying things till the end, keeping them wondering whether he has seen or not seen. After saying Drishta Sita, then when he is urged by Jambavan and others to describe what happened, then he describes in the 58th Sarga of Sundarakanda, he describes everything, whatever happened in one Sarga, the entire happening of whatever happened in Lanka, he describes to the Vanaras. So lot of these lessons we learn from studying Srimad Ramayanam, which is why, the reason I told you this is to emphasize that you all should please read the original after studying Sanskrit, and not just go by certain abridged versions or certain English versions or in any other language. Then we have Yuddha Kandam, which the name itself suggests, and then Uttara Kandam, that is the last kanda of Srimad Ramayanam. So 7 kandas, and each kanda has different sargas. So there is one verse which is given in your textbook. Yanti nyaya pravrittasya tiryanchopi sahayatam apanthanam tu gacchantam sodaropi vimunchati. Yanti nyaya pravrittasya tiryanchaha api sahayatam apanthanam tu gacchantam Sodaraha api vimunchati. This is contextually very relevant to Srimad Ramayanam, what we have been learning in this particular chapter. Nyaya pravrittasya. For a person who follows the path of justice or path of nyaya, path of dharma, tiryanchaha api. Tiryanchaha, contextually, it can have many meanings. Even animals, or those which move horizontally, which don't move vertically like us on coos, but those who move horizontally, even the animals or birds or whoever you can say, tiryanchaha api nyaya pravrittasya, on following the path of justice, sahayatam yanti. So even animals render help to a person following the path of justice. So in Srimad Ramayanam, we see how a squirrel also wanted to do its bit in helping Hanuman, Vanaras, and Rama to build the bridge to go to Lanka. And also we see how Jatayu gave up his life for the sake of protecting Sita. And then we come across many instances like this. Sampati, the brother of Jatayu, on hearing Jatayu's story, he narrates that he saw Ravana carrying away Sita in the southern direction. That is when these Vanaras along with Hanuman get a clue that she has been taken in the southern direction, and Hanuman decides to go to Lanka to search. So even these animals and birds rendered help for Ramakarya because it was for the sake of justice, for the sake of dharma. However, apanthanam tu gacchantam sodaropi vimunchati. For a person going in the wrong direction, apanthanam, in the wrong direction. Gachantam, to a person going in the wrong direction. Sodaraha api, even his own brother, vimunchati, will abandon. So for a person who takes the wrong path or strays away from dharma, his own brother will abandon him. This again you see in the example of Vibhishana. So Vibhishana also, one of the brothers of Ravana, he comes and he surrenders to Rama and he says, I do not want to be fight on the side of my brother because he has committed adharma. He is on the path of adharma. Therefore, Rama, I surrender to you. So his own Vibhishana also, his own brother of Ravana, does not approve or does not fight with him in the war against Rama. So he abandons him. So this is a verse which is very apt for what we see in Srimad Ramayanam. So, I mean, you do not have all these verses, etc. in detail, whatever we studied today, whatever we learned today. But because you're being introduced to literature, I felt inspired to share that with you. So we learned a little bit more in detail about Srimad Ramayanam than what is given in your textbook. For your exam, it would suffice to know what is given in your textbook. It's just an introduction to Srimad Ramayanam. But the objective of these of Samskrita Vangmaya Parichaya is to inspire you to read all these verses in their original. So I hope you all, those who, there may be many here who have already done it. Those who haven't, please do so at some point of time. Yes. Next we move to Katha. Kushalaha Vriddhaha. So the smart or intelligent old person. Vriddhaha, old person, old man. Vriddha would be old woman, Vriddhaha would be old man. Ekaha Vriddhaha asit. There was an old man. Saha kshudhitaha abhavat. Kshudhitaha, he felt hungry. Samipe ekaha amra vrikshaha asit. Samipe, nearby, there was one mango tree. Amra vrikshaha, there was one mango tree. It's the mango season also now. Vriddhaha amra vrikshasya samipam agachat. The old man went near the mango tree. Vrikshe bahuni phalani apashyat. Vrikshe, in the tree, he saw many fruits. Bahuni phalani apashyat. Saha achintayat, he thought, aham vriddhaha, I am old. Mama sharire shakti nasti. In my body there is no strength. I do not have strength in my body. All of you, please note that these verbs you see here are all in lang lakara. So the katha in each lesson is also corresponding to what we have learnt in the lesson. So asit, abhavat, asit, agachat, apashyat, achintayat. See, all these are lang lakara forms, simple past tense forms. Please note that also. Vrikshaha unnataha asti. The tree is very tall. Katham upari gacchami. How will I go up? Katham phalam prapnomi. How will I get the fruit? Iti. So this is what he thought. Saha achintayat. Vrikshasya upari vanaraha asan. On top of the tree there were monkeys. Vanaraha asan, they were there. Vriddhaha ekam upayam akarot. Vriddhaha, the old man, thought of a solution. Note, avanaraha, asan, akarot, all these are again in lang lakara. Asit, astam, asan, akarot, and then next line akshipat also. Saha pashana khandan svikritya akshipat. So the old man thought of solution, and he took pashana khandas, that is small stones. He took stones and akshipat, he threw them on the mango, on the tree. Vanaraha kupitaha abhavan. The monkeys became angry. Abhavan. It is lang lakara pratham purusha bahuvachanam. Abhavat, abhavatam, abhavan. Te phalani akshipan. So they got angry and they threw the fruits at the old man. Vriddhaha tani phalani svikritya santoshena akhadat. The old man took those fruits and he ate them happily. Akhadat, again langlakara. Okay, so please note, when I saw Vanara, I remembered in the last verse, Tiryan Chopi Sahayatam, I forgot to mention, even the army of Rama, when he goes to fight against Ravana, was that of Vanaras, right? It was not that he did not go back to Ayodhya and get his army, though he was in such a difficult situation. And the ones who the entire army of Rama was that of Vanaras, Sugriva, Angada, and all, and even Jambavan, who is a bear, right? So with the help of Vanaras, he defeats Ravana. So when I saw Vanara, I remembered that I had to mention this here, how all creatures would help a person who is in the path of Dharma. Okay, now we've completed the story. Samskrita Vyavaharaha Kati. Kati means how many. I think in one of the previous classes, we discussed Sapta Kakaraha, right? The 7 question words in Sanskrit. We have learned Katham, Kim, etc. Kada. Kati means how many. So Kati is in Bahuvachanam, though the answer may be in Ekavachanam or Bahuvachanam. Example. Kati phalani santi. How many fruits are there? The answer can be ekam phalam asti. One fruit is there. So kati means how many in Sanskrit. Okay. And this is as dhatuhu. We came across the word asit, asan many times in the katha, right? So asti also we would have come across. You all will know by now. Asti means is. Asit means was. So let us read the table once. As dhatuhu, akarmakah dhatuhu, parasmaipadi, parasmaipadam, latlakare, asti stah santi, asi stah stha, asmi swaha smaha. Punah ekavaram pathami. Asti stah santi, asi stah stha, asmi swaha smaha. Then as dhatuhu langlakare, asit astam asan, asihi astam asta, asam asva asma, asit astam asan, asihi astam asta, asam asva asma. Okay, please memorize this, a very important verb, because we'll be coming across this in many sentences. Asit, asti. And so please memorize this table. Is the meaning. Is asti, asit is was. Okay, now we come to Subhashitam. We have been learning these wise sayings in Sanskrit in every lesson. Sadayam hridayam yasya bhashitam satya bhushitam kaya parahite yasya kalistasya karoti kim. Ekavaram punah pathami. Sadayam hridayam yasya bhashitam satya bhushitam kaya parahite yasya kalistasya karoti kim. Yasya sadayam hridayam. Yasya. Yasya is actually Shashti Vibhakti in Sanskrit. One whose hridayam sadayam. Hridayam heart. Sadayam. Daya, dayaya saha. Sadayam. Along with compassion. So the one whose heart is compassionate. Bhashitam satya bhushitam. Whose speech is adorned with truth. Satya bhushitam. Bhashitam refers to speech. Bhushitam refers to adorned. So the one whose speech is decorated or adorned with satyam or truth. Yasya kayaha parahite. Kayaha, this form or this body. The one whose body is dedicated to the welfare of others, meaning who uses this human form only for helping others or for the welfare of others, parahite. Kalihi tasya kim karoti, Kali Purusha. So we know the yugas are divided into 4, right? And that is the units of time. We have Kalpa, Yuga, various in our Sanatana Dharma. The 4 yugas are Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So Krita Yuga is supposed to be the first one, where the society is extremely in a very ideal state, everything based on Satya, Dharma, Nyaya, all law-abiding, Dharma-abiding people. And then we have Treta Yuga, which is when Srimad Ramayanam takes place. So that is where you have very great persons like Rama and his ancestors also. He comes from a very great dynasty, Raghuvamsha. And then you also have the evil like Ravana. And then you have Dwapara Yuga, which is where Krishna's avatara takes place, where you have Pandavas, Kauravas, you see, right? You have good and you have the evil, which outnumber in their own family. You have 100 Kauravas, 5 Pandavas, who are cousins. And we also have Shishupala, Kamsa, who torture the good people. So that is Dwapara Yuga. The last Yuga is Kali Yuga, which is the present Yuga, which we are in now, where they say it is all about, there is no respect for dharma, truth. You see so much of violence, whatever, in any form, violence against children, against women, against torture and, terrorism. There's so much of commotion, strife, confusion in society. So this is Kali Yuga, which is characterized by a lot of these kind of things which are against dharma, nyaya, satyam, and you see untruth, falsehood also. So this Subhashitam tells us, for a person whose heart is compassionate, whose speech is adorned with truth, and who uses this human form only for the welfare of others, what harm can Kali Purusha do to him? What harm can Kali Yuga do to him? So even in Kali Yuga, we have people who are truthful and, who follow the path of dharma. So what harm can Kali Purusha do to such a person? That is the meaning of this verse. So let us read the summary. What harm can Kali Purusha do to him, whose heart is full of kindness, whose speech is adorned with truth, and whose body is for the good of others? Even Kali can do no harm. So this reminds me of this Kaya Parahite, reminds me of, one of the lines or one of the sentences which we come across in Sanskrit. So it seems Vyasa, like you all know, Vyasa Maharshi, who classified the Vedas into Rig, Yajus, Sama, and Atharvana, and who also is the author of Mahabharatam and Puranas. So he was asked, instead of reading all these Puranas and everything, oh Maharshi, can you give us in one line the gist of what all you have composed? Because he has composed so many Puranas and the entire Mahabharatam, which is 1 lakh verses. Ramayanam is 24,000, Mahabharatam is 1 lakh. So that's the longest, what we call, in English it is called epic, but like I said, in Sanskrit, it's not epic, it is itihasa, what we say. So Vyasa tells, in one line, it is paropakara punyaya papaya parapidanam. So this is the gist. So if you want to attain merit or punya, help others, paropakara punyaya, papaya parapidanam. And then if you harm others, then you will incur sin. So paropakara, or helping others, we find many subhashitams in Sanskrit with reference to this, with reference to paropakara. So this also is a verse which encourages everyone to help others and lead a life full of truth and compassion for all beings. Okay. So with this, we have come to an end of lesson 4. I'm just looking at the questions. While translating, apanthanam. Oh, Anne-Marie Bhagini, thank you for pointing out. She says there's a typo there. Let me go through that. Apanthanam tu gachantam sodaropi vimunchati. Apanthanam is, oh, it says apanthanam here. Sorry. Sorry about that. I shall edit it. Let me edit it right away. Apanthanam, it should be apanthanam, not apanthanam. All of you, please note. Thank you, Anne-Marie Bhagini, for pointing this out. It is apanthanam, not apanthanam. Apanthanam means for a person who is straying from the path of dharma. It should be apanthanam. It will accordingly be uploaded on the portal also for all of you. Okay, now Sanjeev G, at what level of Sanskrit can one read the Ramayana in its original and understand the same? Sanjeev Ji, like I said, with a basic understanding of, so Pravesha is very crucial. Like I've been stressing, this particular level of Sanskrit, because you are introduced to verbs, the various lakaras, which you have to memorize. And you're also introduced to the shabdas, which we will learn after lesson 4. We are going to commence with Ramaha, 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 the shabdas, the noun tables. So this is level, the basic, you should be very strong to understand any work, including Ramayanam, Bhagavad Gita, any work, you should be very strong. And I would say that if you complete the 4 levels of Samskita Bharati, that is Pravesha, Parichaya, Shiksha, Kovida, and by this, that will give you a very good foundation. And with that itself, you will be able to read the original. But again, it depends on how thoroughly you learn each level. It is not about completing an exam, right? It is, if you see, for example, in Pravesha, if you memorize all the shabdas, all the dhatus given to you, and know exactly each vibhakti. If I say Ramasya, you should be able to identify Shashti Ekavachanam. If I say Ramam, you should say Dvitiya Ekavachanam. Ramaya Chaturthi Ekavachanam. That level of thoroughness, if you prepare, then it will lay a very good foundation for you to be able to appreciate these works in their original. Even then, I would say you would require the aid of maybe a dictionary or a commentary written by Sanskrit scholars, not by someone who doesn't understand Sanskrit, who just gives their interpretation of Ramayanam. That is another very sad thing, that many of the accounts about Ramayanam, not all, but some of them, we see that probably they haven't even read the original verses in Sanskrit, and they try to give their own vyakhyanam about Ramayanam, which is very wrong. I mean, if you want to comment on something, read the original, understand what verses are there, then comment. Don't take the story from somewhere and say this is what happened. That we see such accounts also, which is why we need to be careful with any work, I would say, not just Ramayanam, and in any language, right? If I don't know Latin and Greek, I can't sit and criticize Latin and Greek works without reading the original by just listening to the story from someone. It's the same thing with Ramayanam and Mahabharatam also. So Sanjeev Ji, I would say, please be thorough with these 4 levels. And then those who are interested, we also have Samskrita Bharati Surasaraswati Sabha Sringeri exams, which are 5 exams. And I think the first 2 levels are already covered in Vyoma, Prathama and Dvitiya. The starting Prathama there itself is a slightly higher than this Pravesha, what you are learning. And there, the 5 levels are called Prathama, Dvitiya, Tritiya, Turiya, Pravesha. Turiya and Pravesha levels in Sringeri exams, you actually read original works of Kalidasa, Ramayanam. There are excerpts given to you, extracts from there, where you actually are introduced to original literature. And that also is a very good path to take. I would say both. You can do both the Samskrita Bharati and Sringeri exams. And by the time you complete, Pravesha is the 5th level of Sringeri exam. The 5th exam is called Pravesha in Sringeri's exams. That would be a very good foundation for you to read any of these works, Ramayanam, Kalidasa, and all of them. why the verbs are called lakaras, Apparauji, I think we discussed it in one of the classes. Verbs are not called lakaras. Verb is called kriyapadam. Kriya, any word which denotes an action, kriyapadam. Lakara refers to the tense. So in Sanskrit, we have dasha lakaraha, 10 lakaras, or the names of all the tenses start with the letter L. So lat lakaraha, lang lakaraha, lot lakaraha, rit lakaraha, late lakaraha, ling lakaraha. So like this, all the 10 words denoting tenses start with the letter L. Therefore, they are called lakaraha. So dasha lakaraha, 10 tenses. Present tense, lat lakaraha. Past tense, lang lakaraha. That way. A verb is kriyapadam. Sujata Rani ji, very interesting question about Adi Kavya and Vedas. So, like I said, this meter in the form of chandas, anushtup chandas, that the first shloka which came out was from the mouth of Valmiki. So, Manishada Pratishtham Tvamagama Samaha Yat Krauncha Mithunadekam Avadhi Kama Mohitam. If you see it is in this Anushtup Chandas, even this verse on your screen, Yanti Nyaya Pravrittasya, is also in Anushtup Chandas only. This meter, this shloka which came out was the first shloka. Therefore, it is called Adi Kavyam. In the Vedas, the meter is different. I have lines. If you have listened to the Vedas, if you compare the Vedas and Srimad Ramayanam, the meter is different, and Vedas are not in this Anushtup Chandas. I'm not sure if there are any verses in the Vedas in Anushtup Chandas. I will have to check on that. I'm not an authority on Vedas. But as far as I know, Vedas are very different. They are not in this form of shloka. So you might have heard some chants like Mantra Pushpam, Purusha Suktam, Medha Suktam, etc. They are all in the form of lines there in the Vedas. And also Vedic Sanskrit has a lot of difference from today's spoken Sanskrit. And today's Sanskrit, like we see, even for that matter, even the Sanskrit we see in Ramayana, etc. There are some tenses like late lakara which are used only in the Vedas. So Vedas also, to answer your question, are apaurusheya. I mean, they were not composed by anyone. So we cannot call them kavyam. And we cannot associate any kavi with the Vedas, because the Vedas were just revealed to the sages in their divine state of meditation. They are divine revelations, so we call them apaurusheya. But there is no human element in authoring the Vedas. However, when it comes to Ramayanam, Valmiki is the poet, the Adi Kavi, who composed the Ramayanam Adi Kavyam. So, which is why we do not refer to the Vedas as Adi Kavyam and Adi Kavi. There is no concept of Kavi or Kavyam there, because they are not composed by humans. But when it comes to Valmiki, we have a composer who is Valmiki, who is the first composer in Sanskrit, and it is written in the form of a Kavyam, which is why Ramayanam is Adi Kavyam. That is the difference between Vedas and Ramayanam. Ramayanam, Mahabharatam, we have authors. They have visualized the events and giving their own poetic genius to it. They have composed these. Vedas do not have this element of composing. Now they are written down, whatever, you have them in print form, but no, you cannot associate an author saying they sat and wrote the Vedas, which is why we do not refer to the Vedas as Kavyam, and we do not say any Kavi there as Adi Kavi. Okay, so we come to an end of today's session here. Let us, as usual, conclude with Shanti Mantraha. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Dhanyavadaha sarvebhyah. Agami Ravivasare punarmilamah. Adya chaturthaha pathaha samaptaha. We have completed 4th lesson. We will meet in the next class where we will be introducing you to nouns, Namapadam, Subantam. And as usual, you will have a class on Saturday. Dhanyavadaha, Ram Ram Ram, Punarmilamaha.